Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, please welcome the President of Ethiopia, Her Excellency Sahle-Work Zewde, and the High Table. You can please take your seats. Thank you very much for the welcoming. Your Excellency, Sahle-Work Zewde, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency, Ambassador Albert Mushanga, Commissioner for Trade and Industry, Your Excellency, Yoon Kang-hyun, Deputy Minister of Economic Affairs of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, Your Excellency, Arantxa Gonzalez, Executive Director of the International Trade Center, Your Excellency, Ms. Aurelia Patricia Calabro, Director of the Regional Hub of UNIDO in Addis Ababa. Welcome to the Africa Industrialization Day. As you all know, distinguished delegates, all protocol observed, the Africa Industrialization Day was set aside in 1989 by the head of states of the African unity. And we used to celebrate the Africa Industrialization Day since that day. I would like to call and to invite to the podium His Excellency Albert Mushanga, Commissioner for Trade and Industry, to say his welcoming speech.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremony. Your Excellency Sahle-Work Zewde, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers who are here, Your Excellency Arantxa Gonzalez, Executive Director of the International Trade Center, Your Excellency Aurelia Calabro, UNIDO Regional Director, Your Excellencies, Heads of Mission and Ambassadors present here, Captains of Industry, and distinguished participants. When you invite people to come and give you a message, you do not make a long statement. And in this respect, I'm going to be very brief, because my task is to listen to the messages that are coming from the visitors that we invited. I warmly welcome each and every one of you, especially Her Excellency the President. And as a member of the African Union Commission, I say we are all very happy that you can be with us this morning at the African Union headquarters. It's now 30 years that we started the Commemorating Africa Industrialization Day, which was inaugurated on 20th November 1989. And as we do this year, we commemorate it with a renewed commitment to use industrialization as a key lever in the structural transformation of Africa. We're this year commemorating the day with growing partnerships as represented by participants from many parts of the world. We also have joint ventures with the government of Korea and the International Trade Center. And as always, UNIDO is our long-standing strategic partner on issues of industrialization. The key lever of industrialization in Africa will be the private sector. Mindful of that, we are providing a large market space through the African Continental Free Trade Area, and hence the theme for this year, positioning African industry to supply the African Continental Free Trade Area market. And I'm sure business will welcome this theme. And as we commemorate Africa Industrialization Day, we also have made a number of commitments. We are committed to skills development, and one of the key outcomes of this commemoration is to establish a Pan-African Manufacturing Institute. We are also committed to dialogue with African manufacturers. To this end, we inaugurated the Pan-African Manufacturers Association and are developing a memorandum of understanding with them. And we are also developing a memorandum of understanding with the African Free Zones Organization. We are also committed to creating an enabling environment for the growth of manufacturing by addressing issues such as, among others, competition, policy consistency, access to finance, combating corruption, as well as creation of trade-related infrastructure. We are also committed to mainstreaming gender in manufacturing. The She Trade brand is growing. We must now develop the She Producers brand. Moving forward, we now need to focus on the development of industrial statistics that cover all African countries. The data will give us evidence of what is going on at enterprise, national, and continental levels. I promise to be brief. I end here. Once again, you are most welcome to the African Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Albert Mushanga, Commissioner for Trade and Industry. I would like now to invite Her Excellency Aurelia Patricia Calabro, the Director of the Regional Hub of UNIDO in Addis Ababa. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm going to read an address of the Director General of UNIDO, Mr. Lee Yong. Her Excellency Sahle-Work Zewde, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, His Excellency Yoon Yang Hye-yong, Minister of Economic Affairs of Korea, His Excellency Albert Muchanga, Commissioner for Trade and Industry of the Africa Union Commission, Her Excellency Mrs. Arantxa Gonzalez, Executive Director of the International Trade Center, Geneva, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to welcome all of you to the 30th celebration of the Africa Industrialization Day. I am pleased that UNIDO is celebrating this year Africa Industrialization Day in Addis Ababa with the African Union Commission. Our annual Africa Industrialization Day celebration represents a unique platform and opportunity for us to enhance international cooperation and foster dialogues on the Pan-African industrialization agenda. Over the years, with UNIDO developing, operationalizing, and leading the implementation of the Third Industrial Development Decade for Africa, IDDA3, we now have a vision that places Africa on a path towards inclusive and sustainable industrial development. With our member states welcoming our program for country partnership, PCP, as UNIDO innovative and unique model for accelerating ISID, we have an established foundation to further support industrialization in Africa. With the strong leadership of the respective governments, we are making the PCP approach work for sustainable development to benefit all. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement provides a platform and a new impetus to continent's industrialization agenda through increased intra-Africa trade. Once operational, the free trade area will cover a market of over 1.2 billion people and is expected to generate a gross domestic product to the tune of 2.5 trillion. With 55 member states of the Africa Union, the agreement will be the world's largest free trade area. The agreement is indeed a golden opportunity to make optimal use of the regional market, develop local and regional value chains to produce products according to international standards. Collective response is critical in order to strive in an internationally competitive environment. By strengthening country-specific and regional comparative advantages in terms of resources, information, knowledge, skills, and institutions, Africa can emerge as a strong industrial power in the near future. Regionally coordinated initiatives supported by strong political will can help optimize usage of the continent's resources to create a strong infrastructural base and foster manufacturing. For example, the transboundary renewable energy potential stemming from sources such as hydro and solar in Africa is enormous and can lead to the development of value chains and fuel industrialization, trade, and progress. Regional cooperation with the framework of the Continental Agreement can exploit the huge reservoir of potential resources to create sustainable industrial development as an effective means of fostering transformative change toward greater manufacture, value-added, and regional integration. The fourth industrial revolution will play a major role. Digitalization offers opportunities to African countries in terms of facilitation of trade and private sector investment to foster growth and create jobs. In this regard, we need to strengthen the regional industrial innovation system when positioning African industry in the context of the agreement. In an ideal industrial innovation system, institutions will generate new knowledge to be utilized by laboratories and commercialized by a dynamic private sector. In such an effective innovation system could be created regionally by virtue of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, it would serve as the accelerator towards an inclusive, sustainable industrial development. Continuous improvement of products and production systems, maintaining price competitiveness, identification of niche products, exploiting comparative advantages and turning them into competitive advantage, retraining of workers while applying ICT and digital technologies are possible policy options. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Africa is emerging as a continent of hope, opportunity, and transformation. I'm sure the deliberation of distinguished participants and interaction during this day will highlight emerging opportunities for the positioning of African industry in the context of the newly created agreement. I thank our partners, especially the Africa Union Commission and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, for the good collaboration, and thank you all for your attention. Amasegenalo.
Amasegalano. Thank you very much, Aurelia Calabro. I would like now to invite Her Excellency Mrs. Arancha Gonzalez, Executive Director for the International Trade Center. Welcome, Director.
Good morning to you all, Madam President, Excellencies, dear friends. I'm very pleased to be in Africa as we celebrate Africa Industrialization Day. I'm equally pleased to formally use this opportunity to open the World Export Development Forum 2019 that we are hosting together with the government of Ethiopia and the African Union Commission. Exactly 30 years ago, 1989, the UN and the African Union declared this day as Africa Industrialization Day. In these 30 years, a lot has changed. But I want to focus on something that has happened recently that is a real game changer in this road towards industrialization. It's called the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Regional economic integration is an essential ingredient for the competitiveness of the economies of this continent. And competitiveness is essential for the quality of the growth of this continent. A free Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement is also a signal to investors, both local and foreign investors, that they have opportunities in a much bigger market. The evidence from other continents is that regional integration lowers costs, boosts prosperity. So far, so good. But what we need to do now is move to implementation, move from words into granular implementation of each one of the decisions that have been taken. At the heart of this matter is creating value in the economy so that economies can grow and prosper, and this prosperity is better shared. This means creating value in the things that Africa trades by moving up the value chain and trading more in processed goods. Today, the level of processing in the African economy is relatively low. It's only 35% compared to around 75% in Europe and 87% in Asia. Manufacturing is a very important part of this value addition story, but it's only one part of the story. The goal must be to achieve greater value addition across the economy, in agriculture, in manufacturing, and also in services. Just yesterday in the She Trades Global Forum, we heard from a South African company producing lactose-free milk from insects. This is value addition, and this is innovation. We heard from a Botswana company producing a specialty preserve that has won international accolades. This is value addition. And frankly, it's also a contribution to lower the import food bill that this country has. Just yesterday also, 10 CEOs from 10 innovation hubs across the African continent met here in Addis. They are pushing to market thousands of young startups in the digital space. This is services. This is value addition too. Closer to home in Ethiopia, just last May, I had the chance to witness the opening of a textiles factory invested by an Indian company that has been supported by the International Trade Center. It's already created 1,500 jobs in Mekelle Industrial Park. This is value added too. And there are 150 million other investors from India and China that have already been that are already in this country with the support of the International Trade Center, that are contributing to making the continent that we want. All these are examples. They are examples of big companies. They are examples of small and medium enterprises. They are examples of the value added that is being created in Africa, of the jobs that are being generated. Is this enough? No. There are 12 million young entrants in the market every year. This is our reminder that we need to move faster, and especially that we need to move in a more integrated manner. What is it that we need? I want to focus very briefly on 4 ingredients. Ingredient number 1, we need to be able to track a little bit better what is happening in this continent. We need better data, intelligence, scorecards. Much of what is happening goes simply unrecorded, unreported, and therefore, what you don't know, you don't care. Number 2, investment facilitation measures. Simplification of procedures, one-stop shop, transparency, no corruption. All of this is essential to attract investment. This is why it is important for African countries to be part of the WTO discussions that are ongoing on investment facilitation. The goal is not to lower the standards at home to attract low-quality investments. The goal is to be clear about what rules you have for transparency and for sustainable investments at home, for responsible investments, with clear and transparent procedures. Number 3, we need to invest in the digital economy. This is the economy of the 21st century. 15% of this continent's 400 million mobile subscribers now have a smartphone. Innovators like Sudplay in Senegal help people pay taxis and tickets using electronic means. M-Scan in Uganda came up with low-cost ultrasound scanning hardware combined with a mobile app for better maternal care. I want to bring those examples to tell you that this revolution of manufacturing, of value added in services and in agriculture is happening in this continent. But what these young entrepreneurs require is a radical and rapid shift in Africa's business ecosystem so that we open the efficiencies and the possibilities in all the sectors that can penetrate even the most remote rural populations and communities. The most visible manifestation of this digital economy is in electronic commerce that is meant to generate as many as 3 million new jobs in Africa by 2025. This is why I think it's important that the African negotiators focus their attention to electronic commerce and that African countries participate in the ongoing negotiations in the World Trade Organization, setting the rules of international e-commerce trade. Fourth and final, we need to invest in skills. New technology requires new expertise. This is essentially investing in the young people with good public policies. The African value chains envisioned in the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement will need millions of new businessmen and women to service them. Contrary to many conventional wisdom, entrepreneurs are not born, they are made. At the Youth Entrepreneurship and Self-Employment Forum that we will have later today in this same room, we will learn from the aspirations of the youth in the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We welcome you to hear their stories and what Africa Generation Free Trade experts expect from all of us. The young people and the women that we heard from yesterday, which are also part of this move for greater value addition in this continent. With all of this, Africa certainly has its plate full. The multiplicity of action areas means that policy coherence is the name of the game. All parts of the mechanism need to work together. I just want to tell you that in the World Expert Development Forum that we will be hosting together on Thursday and Friday, we will be addressing all these issues with all of you, trying not just to identify what needs to be done, but also valuable contributions to the solutions that we already are implementing. Thank you very much for your attention and very happy to be here with you to celebrate this day.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency, Arancha Gonzalez, Executive Director for International Trade Center. May I now invite to the podium His Excellency Yoon Kang-hyun, Deputy Minister of Economic Affairs of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Korea. Excellency, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Your Excellency, President of Ethiopia, and Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, but I cannot recognize all the celebrities present here today simply because there are too many. But after listening to the UNIDO and ITC, I fully support what they said. I fully support what they said, but I'm going to make my remarks in the bilateral context for diversity of discussions. I'm truly pleased to join this opening ceremony of the African Industrialization Week, and it is really an honor for me to participate in this ceremony as a speaker from non-African nations. I would also like to express my gratitude to the African Union and the Ethiopian government for holding the very second African Industrialization Week. If the first session in 2018, last year, was the introduction, I believe the second Africa Industrialization Week in 2019 has opened a new practical chapter for the African industrial development. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest achievements of Africa in 2019 this year is the launch of the operational phase of the African Continental Free Trade Area. I can recall the day that His Excellency Mr. Muchanga, my friend, made a speech last year in Seoul, my capital city, which showed his confidence in success of the establishment of the AFC-FTA. As he asserted last year, now AFC-FTA has now become a reality. I'm so sure that it will accelerate the economic development of the African continent. I also strongly believe that AFC-FTA will allow companies to reap benefit from the economies of scale and a single integrated African market with free flow of goods and services, which makes the continent more attractive. No doubt that this is the laudable achievement. Now, I'd like to share my thought with you on the importance of the industrialization. Ladies and gentlemen, donor communities, they emphasize that since the Second World War, they have poured inordinate amount of money in Africa. No matter how much ODA you contribute, however, it is a mere bagatelle, just a chicken feed, against a huge financial demand for development. As part of the solution to bridge the financial gap, we have to turn our eyes to benefits of trade and also domestic financing in the forms of taxation. ODA cannot compete with the trade benefits in terms of absolute volume and also its efficacy. To reap the benefits of trade and also widen tax base, industrialization is not a matter of choice. It's a sine qua non. For industrialization, it is also imperative to upgrade infrastructure and secure energy sources, including stable power supply. In this context, I'd like to proudly note that a Korean construction company has implemented Kajungula Bridge project connecting Zambia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and Namibia. Ladies and gentlemen, I can safely point out that Korea can be the most suitable partner on the path of Africa's industrialization. Korea has achieved economic growth and democracy through industrialization, turning itself from a recipient of the international aid to a sizable donor country with less than a half century. We are cognizant of the needs and the difficulties and the conundrum you are facing. We are educated to use our two hands when we offer our help and assistance to our friends. This time, I have brought a medium-sized commercial delegation consisted of Korean startups and SMEs to Addis Ababa to show Korea's interest and willingness to cooperate with African friends. And also the Korea-Africa Foundation is also going to organize Korea-Africa Business Forum this Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, last year, on the occasion of the Korea-Africa Youth Forum in Seoul, I described Africa as a 3D continent. 3D continent, but don't be alarmed. 3D here stands for Dynamic Africa and Dramatic Africa, and also Diverse Africa. The African continent is now becoming dynamic with its economic potential. And also it is also making dramatic development of peace and stability. As we can see, 2019 Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to His Excellency Dr. Abiy, Prime Minister of Ethiopia. And it also utilizes its diverse aspect as opportunities for growth while pursuing integrations. I hope the whole sessions and many fora to be held during this African Industrialization Week 2019 help to build an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa. Thank you. This is the end of my official remarks. But actually, I arrived this morning, 1 hour ago, using the Ethiopian Airlines, Directing Airlines, which is the only African airlines connecting African continent and the Far East, Korea and Japan. I appreciate the Ethiopian government for their strenuous efforts to boost connectivity. We need more connectivity. Without connectivity, we cannot do any real sense of friendship. We have to meet more often. And also, all through my entire diplomatic career, this is my first visit to Ethiopia and also Africa Union. That's a strange, why is that? But anyhow, my presence today eloquently shows our renewed commitment to the African continent. I'll try to come more often. Or I send many of my friends to the African continent. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your remarks and welcome in Africa. It's now my honor and pleasure to welcome to the podium Her Excellency Sahle-Work Zewde, President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Excellencies, distinguished guests, friends at the podium, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to our capital city, the capital city of Africa, Addis Ababa, to attend the Africa Industrialization Day, part of the Industrialization Week, and the World Export Development Forum 2019. I would like to thank those who are co-hosting this event, the African Union, the International Trade Center, and the government of Ethiopia. It is a crucial event which is clearly affirming the interdependence between industrialization and export development. Our continent has immense economic potential and is poised to firmly mark its participation in the global trade arena. We are transitioning into an era where Africa is becoming a key player in the global trade, investment, and industrialization, in contrast to its part marginal role. Currently, Africa has become a top destination for international investments and has been gaining a ground as a major trading partner. More importantly, the effort to facilitate free trade among African countries and enhance the continent's competitiveness has taken a shape and made a significant step with the signing and the subsequent ratification of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement by the majority of African states, in which my country, Ethiopia, has played its role to bring the agreement into effect. I would like to seize this opportunity to congratulate all states for bringing to life such a sizable free trade agreement, which covers 1.27 billion consumers with an estimated market value of 3.4 trillion US dollars. Effective implementation of the Continental Free Trade Agreement immensely contributes to Africa's industrialization, private sector growth, job creation, and balanced trade. It is therefore high time to expedite its implementation in order to unleash complementary economic ecosystem among African nations to utilize the full potential of the continent in becoming leading exporter in international trade. I would like to seize this opportunity to express Ethiopia's strong commitment to materialize the implementation of the agreement and call upon all African states to effectively do so. When drafting new domestic policies and revising the old ones, states need to factor in and ensure their alignment with the Continental Free Trade Agreement. In this regard, Ethiopia has recently introduced a homegrown economic policy in line with its development vision, Agenda 2063, and the SDGs. The homegrown economic policy is aimed at setting Ethiopia on the path to prosperity through job creation, inclusive growth, and poverty reduction. Specifically, the policy plans to leverage the growth achieved in the past decade and balance it with increased productivity by triggering innovation, enhancing industrialization, diversifying and increasing exports, and ensuring a robust macroeconomy through comprehensive and synchronized set of microeconomic, structural, and sectoral measures, coupled with strong regional trade integration. The role of industrialization in gearing up regional trade and integration is very clear. Ethiopia has set a vision to become a leading manufacturing hub of Africa by 2025. To realize this vision, the country has been implementing complementary strategies, which include identification of priority investment areas, creation of investment enabling conditions, development of infrastructures, and industrial parks. Primarily, Ethiopia's industrialization policy has identified strategic investment areas that boost productive investments, increase export competitiveness, create jobs, and enhance innovation. Major sectors identified include pharmaceuticals, textile and apparel, energy, horticulture, tourism, and ICT. In order to create enabling environments for private sector's participation under the prioritized sectors, my country has embarked on regulatory and institutional reforms. For example, the recently revised investment law has opened up restricted sectors to private investments, as well as identified sectoral investment opportunities that put special emphasis on agro-processing and value additions, among others. In addition, sector-specific strategies, implementation roadmaps, and tailored fiscal and non-fiscal incentive regimes have been introduced. Furthermore, the ongoing infrastructural investments aimed at improving ease of doing business on import and export trade logistics are showing early successes in cutting red tapes, enhancing investments, and contributing to effective and efficient regional and international trade. The development of plug-and-play industrial parks has reduced the process and costs associated with starting and operating manufacturing industries. The development and operation of these industrial parks rests on key principles of sector specialization, export orientation, vertical integration, sustainability, and skills transfers. Our parks have now a good occupancy rates of investors who are producing and exporting diverse products to diverse international destinations. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our lesson so far indicates the importance of integrating regional and international commitments with national industrialization and export strategies. To expedite our industrialization process and grow our exports, it's imperative we leverage the collective market size that we have as a continent. By creating a complementary economic system, we will be able to reap the full potential of our respective nations and become a major player in the international trade arena. Hence, I would like to call upon all African governments to put the joint development agenda at the core of their respective national policies. In conclusion, observing the range of participants this event brings together, I believe that various perspectives and voices are represented, and the collective wisdom required to untangle the complex trade and industrialization problems is strongly present. I'm also convinced that this forum and this gathering will not only produce solutions, but also draws out practical avenues for their timely and effective implementation. I wish you all a successful event. Thank you very much.